day typically? Not that it matters.
An
Just
hour.
an hour.
Okay. An hour.
Okay, gotcha.
I believe we are live, and I'm just going to pull up onto yes, we are, but we don't have anyone joining us quite yet. I'm going to pull up onto my, if you could see me page so that I can share this and tag you in it. I am nothing if not super informal.
Well, clearly I'm being super informal too. So
it's just sort of the MO of all the things is that like we just show up as we are and we do what we do because that's what we do. And we don't need to be fancy to be able to talk about this stuff.
Right, exactly.
I'm tagging you as well. Well, I'm gonna try to, at least.
I heard a little bit of the Southern accent peeking in there.
I'm
gonna try to.
I'm doing it. It's funny. Since I came out here, my Southern accent is coming out more. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's like some sort of strange defense mechanism or what it is, but it is definitely coming out. Maybe I feel like I've got to represent.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it's because it's comforting.
It is. Well, it is. It is, and you don't hear it out here. So, yeah, we're just gonna sit here for a second and shoot the breeze and give some folks a chance to see that we are here and ready to go.
The Charleston.
It's gonna get real Southern in here in a minute.
I know. I'm going to share if this entices anyone. I know it's my car in the way, but I mean, you just want to go, oh.
So what part of North Carolina are you in, like regionally?
Asheville area.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay. Well, then that makes total sense.
Yep.
It is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, everywhere you look. And I know we're seeing headstones, but I am actually at a cemetery. And but this is what I don't live on this particular mountain, but I live kind of over on that mountain over there.
Wow.
And so your view is just like, oh.
Absolutely magnificent. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and all of our non-binary friends, I am super excited to be here with you once again for another one of our Saturday morning coffee and conversation. I have my coffee in my New York City Library cup here with me at my table in Portland, Oregon, and joining me from the Asheville, North Carolina area is Kristin Walker. Kristin is the CEO and founder of the Mental Health News Radio Network, the podcast network that this show is very proud to be a member of. Kristin, thank you so much for joining me. Please tell me what we're looking at and tell us a little bit about where you are and what's happening with you right now.
Well, what we're looking at, I'm at the top of a hill, looking at just absolutely gorgeous mountains, 360-degree views. I'm actually at a cemetery, which there are little cemeteries sprinkled on mountain hills everywhere. I'm just sad that the cows aren't here clomping around as they usually are, but and the little miniature donkeys. But I'm just outside of Asheville, North Carolina. And after a tumultuous 2020, which I'm speaking to the choir here, I escaped from where I was living to the mountains of North Carolina. And I can't even express how amazing that's been for me. I actually live right near the largest Hindu temple on the eastern seaboard, is about 5 minutes up the mountain from where I live.
Wow.
And so when I can come here to this place, pick a spot where I could go, but I can also go there and sit in front of a waterfall that has some a Hindu figure. I'm sorry, I should know which one it is, but right under the waterfall and meditate. It's glorious where I live.
So it sounds like just a place that is close to spirit, whatever spirit means for every individual. You are in a place that is,
yep,
it is easy to connect with that type of energy.
Exactly. And just for your listeners to know, I had made a promise to myself, a gift to myself. And I'm not saying anybody should do this. This is just what I needed to do. So I don't want to sound like I'm being preachy about what everyone needs to do for themselves. That's not it at all. What I needed to do for me was not be on camera for a year, because I spent all of 2019 on live news shows talking about mental health, which was wonderful. And then half of 2020 on camera. And for me, it was like, you know what? I don't want me on camera or my life on camera anymore. I'm willing to talk about it and have it be audio, but my life is now about looking outside at these things, not me, my mug on a camera.
So I think that's actually a really beautiful place to start, because one of the things that we talk a lot about in If You Could See Me and in Restory in particular right now, we do a ton of work around boundary setting and around allowing ourselves, developing the skills to have more comfort around allowing ourselves to set the boundaries that we need and to ask for what we need and take up space in the world in the ways that are comfortable for us, as opposed to the ways in which other people expect us to show up.
Yes.
And so talk a little bit about what that means for you and how that sort of, boundary around not being on camera, embodies that.
Well, I know there's I don't know if I should have researched this, but I think about it all the time. You remember that show Kung Fu with, I think it was David Carradine or Keith Carradine?
Yes.
Okay, so I grew up watching that show, and I found his lifestyle showing up at different places, and this change happening with people. He was a servant to wherever he went, and that impacted me profoundly. And I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 when that was going on. And my family is very much of service. My stepmom, my mom's partner, is a minister and a social worker. My mom has been about being of service her whole life. My grandmother was. I mean, this is just part of my family. And something that can be very difficult when you are an of service person is, well, where do I keep boundaries to be of service to myself as I'm giving to everybody else?
Right.
And so for me, the not being on, I looked at it like, I think the guy in Kung Fu, I'm getting back to the point, would say, oh, no, I don't want to be on camera. It steals your soul. I think that's a Native American thing as well. Don't take my picture. It takes your soul. And so I always thought about that. And I think about so much with social media and voyeurism and all these things that we look outward at, and that we have to be seen. And I wanted to get back to, okay, I don't have to, I am seen if I feel that I'm seen.
Right.
My voice is enough. My voice is more than enough.
Yes.
And so I'm going to put a boundary around this spreading myself too thin, which I looked at camera. And I mean, I was broadcast last year. And the year before, I was going out to millions of people. And it just started to feel like, where am I? What? I'm giving away way too much. And so that became a boundary for me. And it took a while. This was not tomorrow I woke up and went, bing, I'm not going to be on camera. No, it's taken layers and layers and layers of going within to get to this decision.
Well, and it's a fascinating point because, two things come up for me. One, that you assert right there that it took time. It's not, you didn't wake up one day and say, I am now strong enough and
Right.
skilled enough and, comfortable enough in my own skin to be able to say, I refuse, as a media professional, I refuse to be on camera anymore.
Right.
Right. I'm not doing that anymore. Deal with it, world. Right. That was a process and it took time. And so, as with all things that we talk about, when we talk about mental health, whether it's personal, mental health care or it's change within systems or policy, these things take time. And they require a certain amount of showing up and then continuing to show up and showing up in different ways and, listening and learning. And so I appreciate you being honest about that, because I do think that in many situations we have, people say, well, I've done this, or I made this big decision that is bold and, and assertive and, and sometimes, especially influencers like yourself or people who, who other people look to for, help with asserting themselves or making certain decisions, is, that one day you just woke up and that's what you did.
Right. It doesn't happen that way. The better decisions don't happen that. It's
Right.
not sustainable. It isn't sustainable. There's so much coming at you with the way society moves and breathes and is a part of now that it's everything is telling you not to do what you're doing.
Right. Right. And so then the other thing that came up for me, Kristin, that when you were talking about that, about your voice is enough, and, is, I mean, if you could see me, is about being seen, but
Right.
It's not about being visibly seen. It's about being seen as a human.
Right.
And so that for me, the question arises, what does it mean to be seen?
Right.
Right. What does it really mean to be seen for all, that you are and that you bring to the world? And in many cases, we fall prey to, the replacement for being seen is being seen, right? Like being on camera, being, if you visibly have a representation of my life, then I won't disappear. But are you actually seeing what I am about?
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird thing. I mean, you've explained it much better than I would have. The only intelligence I can come up with, is a weird thing, but
Well, it is a weird thing.
I mean, I come from this, I wasn't heard about sexual abuse that was going on for me as a kid. I wasn't heard. I wasn't seen. I spent so many years from a young age speaking publicly to doctors and nurses and anyone and, and mental health professionals. This is what you look for, the signs. So a lot of my life has been about wake up, see what I'm saying. And somewhere in there, I just gave away so many pieces of myself that I went, do I even know what being seen actually is? And why do I care now? I mean, being seen is different things at different times in your life. And now it is, I just need to be seen for me, see me.
Right. See you now.
Exactly.
That's the thing, is that, I think for those of us who do this work in the way that we do it, we start out not in a way. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I started out trying to save my little girl self.
Right.
Like my whole goal was to be for her and create a world that was for her what it needed to be. So much so that I have reached points in my adult life where I'm like, okay, but I'm glad that I did that. Obviously, I want to continue doing that work. But that little girl has been healed to a certain degree. She has been reparented to a certain degree.
Right.
She is no longer in need of the same level of, addressing or nurturing or, than she was when I first started. And that doesn't mean that the work is not still valuable, but who I am now also requires some attention.
Right.
And so it's a matter of, still trying to create that world now, not so much for my little girl self, but for all those other little girls out there who need a safe world to live in. And yours and my experiences were different. I was not the victim of sexual abuse as a child. But there was other stuff. And and so we want to be able to create a safe world for the children and the people growing up with, experiencing mental health challenges. But at the same time, we have to honor our own needs. And the phrase that I use with so many of my clients is, can you hear me, Kristin?
I can, absolutely.
Okay. All right, good. I got a little weird internet thing, and so I just want to make sure. The phrase that I use with a lot of my clients and in a lot of the work I do is that, I don't have to set myself on fire to keep other people warm.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. And there's so much for me in the quiet. And again, I preface this again for anyone that's going to hear this down the road or watching this now or later. This isn't, we hear so much out in the world, celebrities and whoever, it doesn't matter, on camera saying, well, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And it comes from this judgment place. Like everybody else is, if everybody else isn't doing what they're doing, then there's something wrong with you, And it's like, no. I say this is what's important for me, just me. If you want to be on camera 100 times a day, my God, and that's what's important for you right now, because that's your journey, do it. But it's not important for me. And I have stuff that is going to be filmed as soon as Hollywood opens back up and the entertainment industry opens up. We have production companies waiting for us as soon as that happens to get moving again. And so this is going to come to an end. My time of not being on camera is coming to an end. And I'm telling you, I am relishing how much it's feeding me to not be talking to a camera.
I respect it and honor it, because I think that it's so much more than just, not being on camera.
Oh God, absolutely. That's just a way for me to do something that expresses a healthy boundary for me at this moment in time that I can easily honor. I mean, not so easily, but once you get into it, you can honor that, and you've got a tangible action that you're using as a tool to show yourself how much you honor yourself. That's all it is. I could have chosen, I'm not going to eat chocolate. Well, that wouldn't be very honoring, but you know what I'm saying.
I don't know. It depends on how your body responds to chocolate, right? Right. So, I haven't eaten cheese in 12 years. I'd love to eat a lasagna, but the bad things that it does to my body means that, and my mind in turn, that's not worth it to me. So, and that's why I love that you said that. And it's one of the sort of foundations of the work that I do. Like, I do not like self-help in general.
Right.
Because in so many situations, self-help is prescriptive. Self-help says, follow these 10 steps and you will have the life you've always dreamed of. Right. And I can't, I think that if I if I could embody or internalize the, I don't know, whatever it is that a person needs to be able to say, follow these 10 steps and you will, I'd be,
do it. Yeah.
I'd be a very wealthy woman, and be all over the place. But what's true is that there isn't 10 steps to anything.
Exactly.
There is what works for you.
Exactly.
And there are spaces that, can create opportunities for you to ask the question, what is true for me in this moment? And, we need more of that rather than, people telling us if we would just do things as they tell us to, that everything would be better.
It's become such a consumer driven, fame seeking place. I just, from my vantage point of all the interviews I've done for 8 years and all the work on, camera I've done, all these things, I see this same show, the same, the 12 golden rules to your ladder to success. Okay, write a book, do Facebook lives, be on YouTube. There's like this whole thing, and there's a language that comes with it, and it is very much, since I grew up around cults, it's such a cult, and it's like, okay, I want to get off of this train for a while so that I can think and I can dip into some things that happen in that cultish behavior, but I don't then get absorbed and sucked into it and forget who the hell I am.
Right. And what's important to me and what I value. And, so then it becomes this sort of argument with yourself, and then it becomes a different conversation entirely. And I won't take us that direction, but is it more important for me to, sell stuff?
Right.
Which is obviously, there's value in that. We have to make a living, but, or is it more important for me to create authentic space and, be true to what I value?
Absolutely.
And that is, that's why I love you. And that's why I am so, honored to have been welcomed into the Mental Health News Radio Network. You are such an incredible, support and cheerleader, connector, provider of opportunity. But you walk the walk.
I do weird things. Yes. What a lot of people think are just weird, but really it's just going on a walkabout, like Aboriginal, like I'm going to go out into the desert or into wherever and be on a walkabout because I got to walk this walk because that's part of my soul journey. What the hell did I come here for if I'm not going to be on a journey to expand my soul? I mean, I firmly believe we come to this place called Earth to be human because this is hard.
That's right.
Like it's the brave souls that choose to show up here because this place is hard. And I don't want to go to wherever it is you go next and have people go, really? That's all you could, come on. So yeah, you got to get dirty, bite your nails, get in the dirt, muck around, what I mean?
Right.
Do it. And and you don't have to have a camera on you to do that because you miss, be alone with your thoughts and I'm saying that to myself, be alone in your experience, feel the whole thing, no distractions.
I want to sit in that for a second. Be alone with your feelings.
Yeah.
Sit in the shit. That's what we call it in the If You Could See Me project and elsewhere, I'm sure. But we call it sitting in the shit.
Yeah. I don't have anything to give anybody else as someone who's given everything. I mean, I got to a point where people would just show up in my life and they would tell me, you need to do this. And it was really for them because they'd see the network, something shiny in their mind. whatever they put on it, like they put on anything else. And I've done this too. So again, not a judgment, but, and they would just tell me, you need to do this. And you know what? I would just do it without hesitation, spend my own money, rope other people into these things. One specifically I'm talking about. And then, and I just got to a point where it's like, what am I doing? Do I even know how to give to myself?
Right.
With no one watching? How kind am I to me when no one is watching? Yeah. That's what this is about.
Yeah. Well, and that is, a few months ago, I had on the executive director, Steve Hickman of the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion, because self-compassion, mindful self-compassion was the number one foundational tool that I was able to use for my own healing. Like, it wasn't traditional therapy. It wasn't, and I use it in my practice now, because I truly believe that every bit of healing and boundary setting and, self-care that we need to be healthy people and to have healthy relationships, and every single bit of that is made easier, and the skills are developed more easily once we develop self-compassion. And developing self-compassion is literally the single most difficult and yet shortest distance between 2 points
Right.
in healing that there is. Like, it's hard and it's fucking simple.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like a Mac computer, it's just simple.
Incredibly complex and yet
very simple.
So simple, right?
Yeah.
And so, but when I say to people, like, what do you know about self-compassion? When I sit across from a person and I say to them, is it statistically possible for you to be the problem 100% of the time?
Yeah.
What if it's not you?
Right.
What if it's not your fault? What if you're not in the right relationship? What if the people in your life are not the right people, and they're not the right people because you didn't think you deserved to have any better than that?
Oh, absolutely.
What if you are getting what you think you deserve? And what if that's not true?
I know. What if, I'm telling you, this shaman she would never call herself a shaman. She'll cringe when she hears this, but she'll know who I'm talking about. But that's exactly what she is. She tells me to what if 1,000 times a day.
Yes.
If you want something in your life to change, and I mean, how I got here from where I was 4 months ago was I what if to myself here, what if everything in my life, what if this problem that feels like a problem, what if everything works out exactly the way that it's supposed to? What if I find a wellness place that I can afford that will help me heal some of the things that happened to my body in 2020? What if all the money is available to me to pay every bill? What if, because God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, likes to be asked questions. It comes running in to answer those questions. And that has been a game changer for me. I mean, I hate using that term, game changer, but it's changed everything about my life to what if everything.
What if? I asked a client the other day, what if you replaced every time you said should, what if you replaced it with I wonder?
Right. Oh, wonder. Wonder is such a fantastic word. Oh, I'm going to
I
start saying one day.
shouldn't, right. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should do that. I wonder why I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
I wonder what would happen if I did that. What if we just removed all the judgment from ourselves and just approached our lives with curiosity?
Yep. It's never about this one thing that we think it is, or even 10 things we think it is. It's so much bigger. There's so many pieces to the puzzle that is you and your soul and your journey that we as mere human beings, we're not supposed to know all that that's going on. It would blow our minds. We've been squeezed into this sausage casing called human being, and that's what we're supposed to do, is have this about it, because that's what propels growth.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me too, when you're talking about what if you're with the wrong person or around wrong people, you don't think you deserve better, blah blah blah. It was made easy for me by going the way of the straight line.
Yes.
By just, people would call me and last year and go, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to fetch this for me, you need to make this happen for me, you need to blah blah. And I just didn't return their phone calls anymore. That was it. I didn't have an explanation. I didn't write a 20-page essay email to explain myself. I just didn't answer my phone, and I sent the emails to no man's land. It's that freaking simple.
Yep. Right. Because there is no should.
Exactly.
It's very simple, but we have to believe that we're worthy of being in the world of, we had this conversation a few weeks ago in this same space, as about, being creatives and about allowing ourselves to take up space in whatever way feels authentic to us, and not constantly begging for approval, acceptance, and invitation, validation, right? And just showing up.
Right.
However it makes sense.
Not showing up.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I remember being on the phone with someone who I am not judging, because their journey is their journey. What a different way to look at people when you see a soul, right. But someone, and around me, there were guns going off. There were people driving around. It was the day of the insurrection. And I was in fear for my horses, my equine, my donkeys' safety, because these guns were going off right next to their pasture. There was, and you could hear it. I'm on the phone with my family and they can hear the gunshots. Oh, get out of there, Kristin, now. And I have someone on the phone who knows this and can hear this is going on. And they're like, you need to get on a call at 6:00 because you've got to connect me to this producer, and you've got to impress these people on the call, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, they hear what's going on, and this is what's important for them, and this is not what's important for me, and I don't want this in my life anymore.
Right.
And all I didn't shame. I didn't do a show on narcissistic people. I did it, not that those things weren't important in my past, they were, but I just went, I'm not going to call this person back again. And good luck to you, really, with love, to this journey that you're on. Right. And I'm going to go on mine, and it doesn't involve you anymore. But thank you for when I was needed to be a part of this thing.
Yeah, we're just on different paths.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been hard. And I think a lot of people, when we talk about change, I think a lot of people, everyone had globally, we had some huge occurrence, obviously, in 2020, but in terms of how things are changing, I see many more people that have quit that job or have gotten out of that relationship or have made these huge life changes that involve them having healthy boundaries and finally some measure of compassion for themselves. That I've seen more in that out of what happened last year and early this year than I have at any other time in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm 51, so, you know, I do have some legs to stand on in terms of longevity. So.
Well, I mean, look, I'm sitting here almost 3,000 miles away from where I started the year. So, you know, and this was a move that I have been talking about for 20 years and always just saw only roadblocks. And after last year, and, you know, until really the last 3 months, was just like, you know, my eyes opened and I went, I mean, we lived through a pandemic, for the love of Pete. Like, you know, we did that. We got through that, and life is short and the world is big. And one of the things that, you know, I want to tie this back to what you said about, you know, being in that situation with that other person and sort of just severing ties without anger and judgment and, you know, just sort of letting that person go.
Right.
What I realized for myself in the course of moving to the West Coast, and I mean, I think what I realized it wasn't like the epiphany, it was like over the course of lots of years worth of work. But historically, I think I was socialized this way. I was taught this way, that, you know, to assert a boundary means that you have to be angry at someone.
Right.
Or you have to be, you know,
a 3-page essay and
right. I am setting boundaries.
Yes, and because you need to teach them, you need to make them see your point. Which, my God, it's not about that. Or you're so used to not being heard and seen, and not even seeing yourself, that this is not about that person anymore. It's about a diatribe of what you need to be doing for yourself. Exactly.
Yes, exactly. And so I am so glad that I made the decision that I made to make this move with, you know, my family. I didn't make this decision alone. My partner and my children and I, you know, we all discussed it and we made this decision together. But historically, it would have been, we have to leave this place because this is a bad place where there are bad people, and we have to go to the other place, which is better, and things will be perfect there, and life will be beautiful. And I don't believe that anymore. And I think that that's also why this happened when it happened, because I wasn't running away from anything.
Right.
And I wasn't necessarily running toward something else, right? It was a choice that was made without necessarily being attached to the outcomes. It was a choice that was made out of curiosity, out of what if and I wonder.
And, you know, science, since we are actually human beings, okay, so science backs this up. Mm-hmm. We need to, you know, to power up our dendrites. We need to change our neural pathways and lay down new train tracks, right? And how do we do that? Well, a big way to do that is to move.
Right.
And so I've chastised myself forever about, well, my God, how many homes have you lived in? States have you lived in? Countries have you lived in? You know, how awful of you. And now I realize, oh my gosh, I was doing the most healing thing for all the trauma that I had been through. I was doing the most healing thing I could do for myself by constantly making my brain jump some tracks.
And learn that it could learn that it could make things different.
Yep, exactly. Just enough of a shift to go, okay, I'm not going to do that unhealthy thing anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that I definitely did that. I mean, not to the extent that you did. I've not lived all over the world. I've lived in, very sort of specific places. But I did move a lot when I was younger, and I changed jobs a lot, and I could never sit still. And I always felt like I had to be running away or running toward.
Yep.
And what I remember getting to a job almost 10 years ago now and saying to myself, I was almost in my mid 30s, and I had 3 children, and, and I sat down at this desk in the first week of this job, and I said to myself, it's time for you to sit still and learn what it means to be still.
Yes.
And
I'm right there with you. I don't ever move, barring Armageddon, I don't ever have to move from the family land that I'm living now. And that's an amazing thing that would have made me physically feel like I'm being encased into a coffin.
Right.
And just claustrophobic, just even thinking about it. It's a, horrible thing. And now I'm, oh, wow, this feels really good, because this is the way things are now. Not anything bad, good, or indifferent. It's just, for me now, it's like, okay, the time of running is, for now, is over. I can go do my skipping through the field of daisies, or these glorious mountains, or this cemetery. I can do that while having a home base, and that's amazing.
Well, and it all speaks to timing, right? And to, like, if only, and I mean, I think that this is the key to everything too, but we don't know because we don't know. And that is, like, just accepting where you are.
Exactly. And we talked a little bit before we went live about perception.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned so much from 2020 about perception and how I can see things, and that after such a rough year and everything just seeming like one bleak situation after another, okay, how much grief can I actually handle? To going to, boy, is it important how we perceive things, and that our mental health is rests on our perceptions of things, and meaning we have to take care of it. We have to tend to the garden of our mental health, because if I was depressed, I would not see things the way that I'm seeing them right now. And so I got to do whatever it takes to help me through those times of depression, so that I can stay in that place of perception that allows for growth and peace and, wonderment and what ifs and all those things. If I don't tend to that garden, then it's going to run wild, and not good things are going to happen.
Grow out of it. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so true. I think at one point you said something about, having to make a decision that was, put you in one place that was temporary, but still, and that's what came up is, if you weren't in a healthy place, that all you would be able to see is the limitations. And now that you are in a healthier place, you see all the opportunity.
Absolutely. And man, I learned something just that has been a razor's edge between good and bad. That my family, generational trauma, all those things played a huge role in shaping, which is how capable I am of making the most amazing lemonade out of some rotten freaking lemons, and that can be awesome, and that can also be a perilous, horrible, unmentally healthy journey. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes, like you said earlier, you just have to go, you know what? This is pure bullshit. It's awful. And I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I can't make this lemonade taste good. And that's okay.
Well, and I don't want to try anymore.
Exactly. Like I'm done. I'm done spent. I can't even walk now.
Right.
You know, I had an injury last year and I got to the point where I could not physically walk without being in tears, in pain. And I went, okay, you know what? Like, you need to pay attention to what your body is trying to tell you. Get out of here, you know? And so I did.
So before we went live, you were talking to me about that, about your injury and about, you know, your work with this spiritual healer who doesn't want to be called a shaman, but that is how you identify her. And talk about what she said to you about, you know, your injury and sort of the weight of it all.
Yeah. I guess I don't want to put more weight to what I went through as to anyone else. It was a lot for me, the number of people that died from COVID and that are alive but have lingering, longstanding health issues. It was a lot. Like for 1 month of every year in 2020, somebody passed in my life, and it was just like, what? And so I got to a place where I developed plantar fasciitis, and if no one knows what that is, it's where you stand and you feel like you are walking on needles.
Mm-hmm.
And the shaman I work with said, honey, you have been carrying so much weight that you literally, your feet have just given out on you. You can't, something has to change. Movement has to change for you to be able to, something has to change in your life, because your feet can't. And there were times literally where I felt like I was, you know, Atlas holding up the world. And I don't mean that in a martyr way or a way, it was just like another phone call. And I also put myself out there that way. I mean, how many first responders do we have on the network? And how many times did I say, you're in the muck, you're on the front lines, you need to call someone at Cry at 2 a.m. Let that be me. And I took those calls, and I love that I did that. I learned so much, and it became, I couldn't walk anymore. The weight of that was just like crushing everything. So, you know, we are resilient.
we are resilient. There's no question. But I think it's also important to give voice to our humanness and our limitations, and the fact that it is possible for us to push ourselves to the brink.
Absolutely.
To the extent that we are no longer able to hold ourselves upright.
Yep. I couldn't even ride a horse. It's one of those things. I mean, and that is something that
That is your heart. That's
my heart. I couldn't ride her. I mean, at the beginning of 2020, my horse, while I was on her, was attacked by a dog. And the animal control guy said that was the worst attack. I mean, she's alive and she's great and doing wonderful. And, you know, she's right behind my house. But it was the worst attack he'd seen in 27 years doing as an animal control officer. So these kinds of things happened again and again and again, and to a lot of people. And I was just like, I can't ride her because she's freaked out about being attacked. I'm freaked out about that happening. And with plantar fasciitis, the getting off the horse and putting your foot back on the ground is like, I might as well have stepped on a box of needles. Right. So it was just a physical representation, emotional, mental, spiritual. Wow, 2020. Here we go.
all of it, all the time. Well, and that's the thing is that, very often, although I do, I feel hopeful. I think that's just my nature to feel hopeful. But we do not have a healthcare system. And it's funny because I feel like the theme of this Saturday morning conversation has really largely become, how do we create trauma-informed, mental health-informed, integrative health service delivery systems?
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's so operates in these like separate little compartments, right? That we don't have shamans and spiritual healers in our doctor's offices saying, there's energy here. We can have a million and should science, yes, please, more all the time. But also recognizing that there are energy fields that move through our bodies, and that it can cause illness, and the emotional weight. Hi, JD. The emotional weight of what we carry is held within our bodies.
Absolutely.
It does not require a doctor to know that, but it does require some validation and some sort of global understanding that there's only so much a person can take. There's only so much pain, only so much loss, only so much, uncertainty that a human being can carry before their bodies start to give out. Exactly. And, we can move that right into a conversation about marginalized identities and, the impacts of systemic racism and what it means to a person to be constantly beaten down, to be constantly, kept from opportunity. And you and I, as a couple of, middle-class white women, are not necessarily the people to represent that lived experience, but it is so vast and so broad and so deserves to be a part of a larger conversation about the links between trauma and mental health and our physical health.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did a lot of, I would start projects in 2020, you were a part of one of them, and I'm not saying that won't go somewhere, but I learned a lot about, that limitation. I don't have the stuff that I normally do to get this completed. I just don't. And so I'm going to be okay with whatever anybody's idea about that may be, including my own of, Kristin's a flake or she's a this. I just put all that stuff in a box and put it on a shelf and went, no, Kristin's tired and Kristin needs to go within and be silent and to not be running this race that society tells us we need to be in order to be deemed successful. I'm right.
Like, no, or worthy.
Yeah, exactly. And now I'm like, I just watched a little bird literally right now in this moment flying on a hawk's back. And I'm like, that is more important to me than what I was trying to do last year, that I got to witness whatever the hell that was.
Right. Right. Well, and that, that's the thing is that Kristin, look, you don't need me to validate you by any means, but you provide space for these conversations to be had. You provide support and connection and opportunity for people to use their own voices. Right. And what's true is, whatever the reason that those projects didn't happen is whatever they are. Right. But there are people on our network that are doing this work,
Yes.
that are creating those spaces, that are having those conversations on a regular basis, that are working to make that change. And, you know, what I think all of us can benefit from, I know I can benefit from personally, is understanding that I can't fix all of the problems of the world.
Absolutely.
I can show up in my space and use the tools that I have to improve what I can improve, to learn, to listen, to give voice to highlight and lift up the voices of people who have historically not been heard. But
yes,
we don't have to cure all the world's ills.
and sometimes it's okay to go, and I say this with so many different meanings behind it, but I say it with all you know, positive meaning. Sometimes Oprah can just do it better. You know what I'm saying? She's got more money. She speaks for an African American woman who's been through what I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna I wasn't trying to compete with Oprah anyway, but when some of the things she's had come out, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, that platform and the amount of people tuning in, like, it's okay to be like, okay, good.
Right.
Someone's
She's
got it
that.
covered. I can go do something else.
Right. Although I will say that I did get a couple of emails and text messages from, did Oprah get the title of her show from you?
Oh God.
Because
no,
the me you can't see is a lot like If You Could See Me, is all we're saying. He said somebody, If You Could See Me, came across her desk. And
oh, that's so funny. It may be. And wouldn't that be a hoot?
Wouldn't that be funny?
Wouldn't that be a hoot?
I tweeted her and I said, the me you can't see needs to meet the If You Could See Me project.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
You know,
but you know,
I'm not yet as evolved as you are, Kristin.
It's all part of the collective consciousness. So exactly. It's amazing. And being like, okay, I don't need to compete. I don't need to be that Oprah or whatever, anybody's, you know, Michael Jordan or right. Mother Teresa or whatever. That doesn't need to be your benchmark, because that person is that person, and it's that person's journey, and your journey is just as important.
Yeah. And this is such a valuable, important place for us to begin to wrap up our conversation, is that, you know, those of you who are here with us on Facebook, some will be listening to us on the podcast feed, but some will also be, you know, listening to this or watching this on video on YouTube or on Facebook. Like, we live in a world that needs us or wants us or tells us we're supposed to, you know, get a certain number of likes or get a certain number of followers, or, you know, often, you know, today during this live conversation, there have been 0 people watching us briefly throughout. And it doesn't make the conversation any less valuable.
Exactly.
It doesn't make the point of all of it any less important. And I thank you, Kristin, for providing both an example and a reminder to me to stay the course and to remember what's really important, to remember what's really what really motivates me in this work. And obviously we want to reach as many people as possible, but sometimes having regular, authentic conversations about difficult things is more than people can muster at the time.
Well, and I don't know anymore if as many people as possible is that important.
Right. Because it's the one person.
Exactly. And you know what? It might have just needed to be me and you. And that's okay too.
Yep. Well, and JD, who was one of our If You Could See Me family members, is on with us now and said, this is such a perfect topic for me today, filled with lots and lots of expressive emojis and hearts. And so
thanks, JD.
That's the thing, is that if it's just us, and if it's just one other person, that's still energy. That's still making change. And so, I say this to myself, I say it to all of us, like, don't measure your value by
social media.
By, external factors, right?
Exactly.
Like it just is, it's not real.
Exactly.
What's real is us showing up together, looking at beautiful mountains, and being present with one another, and continuing to say what's true about our own lived experience. And Kristin, before we sign off, one, thank you so much. I love you. I miss being close to you. But I'm so happy for you in your space. Tell our audience where they can find you and your vision and your wisdom.
Well, everyone can go to Mental Health News Radio Network. You could just Google Mental Health News Radio, and that'll take you right to the network. I'm on there, but I mean, really, it's all these incredible people like Erin, just doing their thing. I mean, I don't need to have a big presence because you all do, and it lifts everybody up. So, but yeah, I'm far too much on the internet. So just Google Mental Health News Radio, and you'll find out way more than you even were expecting. So, and especially all these just brilliant, self-aware, compassionate givers and healers. I mean, that's what just makes me go, really? Wow, these people are in my life? Oh my gosh, I must be okay. Not that I need that validation, but I must be okay, because look at the company I keep. Somewhere my what I deserve to be around, my self-worth, came into embodying this.
As manifested.
That's awesome.
You are an amazing example for all of us. And I am, sometimes it feels too good to be true to be a part of a community that is so authentic. I am not used to being in a world that I can trust.
Right.
And so I am inherently mistrusting of people and systems and things as a rule. It's just the way that I was built, and the way that I was, taught to be. And so it's a constant sort of recentering and remembering that there are good people and there are good things with pure motive. And I thank you so much for your time and your expertise and your openness and this magnificent view that has inspired me now to go seek out similar views here in Portland today on my journey. So thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Erin. Love you.
Love you too. Mwah. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Next week with Dr. Kevin Doyle, who was one of my professors at Longwood and now is Dean of Education at the Hazelden Betty Ford Clinic in, oh gosh, I was not prepared. It's somewhere, and it's not in Virginia, and he's amazing. And I'm so excited to talk to him about all things. And so we'll see you next week. Bye.